We're back to Authors Corner in the Total Education Network. Again, TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor. Neil S. Haley, Facebook. LinkedIn, Neil Haley. Instagram, Total Tutor. Authors Corner is such an amazing show this week and always highlighting fantastic award-winning authors, and that's what I love to have the platform covering the Miami Book Fair, LA Book Fair, all the different places. But when you have an interesting New York Times best-selling author, it's amazing. And I went to this guy's Wikipedia page, and I'm already saying he is a rock star. And especially if you check that out, you can say, and Kevin likes to joke around a little bit, but I'd like to welcome the program New York Times best-selling author Kevin J. Anderson. And honestly, you said, how many New York Times best-selling books do you have, Kevin?
This is going to sound funny because I don't actually remember off the top of my head. I've had a total of 52 national or international bestsellers, and some of them are on the Washington Post bestseller list or the USA Today list or the London Sunday Times. It's 52 or something like that. I've had 125 books published and 23 million books in print. And I don't mean to sound flippant, but I do my work and I write books all the time, and I enjoy the books when they come out. And I'm not like keeping stats and scores. That's for somebody else to do. I just want to keep blowing up planets and doing bad things to my characters for the reader's enjoyment.
Absolutely, Kevin. And I think that when you're very humble for your success for sure, but it's amazing. And if people check out the Wikipedia, they'll really get a kick out of that for sure in so many ways. So also in your background, Kevin, what would you say you're also known for? I was checking out some of the bio and stuff, and then we'll get right into all three projects that you're currently doing.
Well, sure. A lot of people will know me from the Star Wars books I did. I did a total of 54 projects for Lucasfilm, best known probably for the Jedi Academy trilogy and Darksaber and the Young Jedi Knight series that I wrote with my wife, and a bunch of other Star Wars comics and things. I've written for Superman and Batman. I've written for the X-Files. I've written for the past 15 years or so, I've been working with Frank Herbert's son, Brian, and we've relaunched the entire Dune series. And we've done, I think, 12 or 13 books in the Dune universe, and all of which have been international bestsellers. And our new one comes out on Tuesday. And I've got my own science fiction epic called The Saga of Seven Sons, and I've got a humorous horror mystery series featuring Dan Shamble, Zombie PI, which I just love those. My fourth one of those books comes out in August. And sorry, what else? I've written a new book called Clockwork Angels with Neil Peart from the band Rush, and it's based on their steampunk concept album. So I wrote a novel based on their album.
Oh, wow. So
huge stuff for us, and we're doing a graphic novel version of that now, too.
So that's where we'll start. And you know what? I didn't know he was from Rush. And I have one of my educators that's called the Bronx Teacher that is the biggest fan of Rush in the world. And I was joking around with him. I said, so we're going to get somebody on from Rush on the show, because I have celebrities all the time. And he was laughing about that. So I'll have to tweet him out and put that in the tweet, Kevin, if you're a Twitter guy as well,
sure,
about that. So let's talk about this. First of all, Clockwork Angels, and especially being able to collaborate with Neil, another Neil, a more famous Neil than myself. It must have been pretty cool, wasn't it?
Well, Neil and I have been friends for about 25 years. My very first novel, called Resurrection, Inc., came out in 1988, and that was inspired by a Rush album. And I put that in the acknowledgments of the book and autographed copies to Neil Peart and Geddy Lee, who's the vocalist, and Alex Lifeson, who's the guitarist. And I just mailed those copies off to the offices of Mercury Records and assumed it was going to be stored next to the Ark of the Covenant in some gigantic warehouse someplace. But a year or so later, I got a letter back from Neil. He had found the book and read it and enjoyed it, and we struck up a correspondence and have known each other for, like I said, close to 25 years. And when they were starting to develop their most recent album called Clockwork Angels, it was a concept story, a steampunk fantasy adventure about a young man journeying from a small town to this bizarre big city and having adventures with steampunk pirates and carnivals and an anarchist who wants to blow up everything and lost cities. And as he was developing that, it was a real story crystallizing, and he was brainstorming the story with me and suggested that I do the novel version as they do the album version. And so we we did the novel version last year, and it came out, and it was a New York Times bestseller. It did win several awards, and it's just coming out in paperback in a month, and we are now adapting it for a comic series, a graphic novel from Boom Studios, and we'll be debuting the first issue of that at Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle in a couple of weeks. I'll be there signing a bunch of autographs. They're doing a special edition of the comic with the Seattle Space Needle on the cover, so that it has a relevance to that comic.
Wow! So you'll be with Neil at that signing in a couple of weeks.
It's just me. Neil does his stuff when he's up on stage with 30,000 people in the audience. I'm the brave one, though. I sit there at the comic floor where I actually shake hands with people and sign their stuff and meet them face to face. So he thinks that I'm the brave one to do that. I think he's the brave one to go up on stage with 30,000 people in the audience. So we work it well together. But the comic is, I mean, it's a gorgeous and lush universe when I was writing the novel, and it just seemed made for comic adaptation. And I've done a lot of comics with Justice Society and Star Wars and Predator and X-Files comics. I've done a bunch of comics already, so it seemed a natural for me to push it this direction. And in fact, when you called, I was writing script number 4 of the 6-issue story arc of Clockwork Angels. So it's in my head, and I'm off in this other land, and I was cranking up their album Clockwork Angels while I was doing my work, because that's how you get in the right mood.
So that's really interesting in a lot of ways. How many people, when you go to Seattle, and how it's going to really be a huge buzz because of being fans of bands, especially of Neil and stuff. It's going to be like, again, you'll be a rock star again, Kevin, at that event, right? Just because of how much the people are into this.
Well, I know the real rock stars, so I can like. See, I'm famous, but nobody knows it. I can be this invisible guy because I'm a writer, and nobody knows what writers look like, and I don't want to have to run around at Disneyland with a baseball cap pulled down over my head or anything. But I do a lot of conventions. We're doing Emerald City Comic Con. There's a big one called FanX in Salt Lake City, which will have 60-some thousand people at it. I'm doing another one at Dallas, the Dallas Comic Con in May. I'm doing one called Comic Palooza in Houston, also in May, and we're doing there's a whole marathon of big pop culture cons, because I have, between right now and September, I have 6 major books released by major publishers, as well as the entire 6 issues of this comic series. So I'll be busy turning around and signing different things for everybody all over the place.
And that's amazing, and I have to say that, Kevin. And like I said, I will continue to call you the rock star of authors. And you guys have to. And I'm sure. And you're talking about these huge crowds now. What has been the feedback of Clockwork Angels and stuff? The work you've been doing so far with it. What has the feedback been with the fans? Have they really enjoyed it?
Oh, they were just thrilled. I was the guest of honor at RushCon in Toronto last year, right after the book came out. So I had all the Rush fans getting their book signed and talking to me about the nuances. And what the funny thing for me, and I've been a Rush fan since forever, and all of these songs of all of their albums just live inside my head because I've played them so many times. And as I'm writing the novel and working on just sentences and the prose and the scenes, there are about 1.5 million Rush Easter eggs in the prose of this book. So if you're a Rush fan, you'll be reading along and go, oh, I caught that phrase from one of their songs off of the Counterparts album. And other people won't notice it, but the Rush fans pick up on it. And that was able to convince them that I wasn't just some interloper who popped in to do this album, that this is to this novel. This is a project that I've been wanting to do for practically my entire career. And Neil Peart and I have written a short story together, and we've got some other plans to do things. But Clockwork Angels is just one of my very favorite books. The joy of writing it was one of the best I've ever had in my career, and I love the way it turned out. And
especially being Rush, because again, I mean, as a huge fan, to be involved in that's got to be so unbelievable. So we go from there to some other amazing things. One, I guess, that you have the series that you have so many New York Times best-selling books. And Dune, tell us specifically about the new book that's about to launch. You said a week from now, correct?
Right. Next Tuesday, so a little bit less than a week. This is a new book called Mentats of Dune, and if you've read the Dune books, you know that Mentats are they're human computers. This is in a future where there's been a gigantic war against the thinking machine, sort of a Terminator-style thing. And centuries later, thousands of years later, civilization has moved on, but computers are forbidden. So humans are training themselves to become like human computers, super photographic memories, and able to process like Rain Man almost these projections and putting all the data together. And this is about how the Mentats were formed, sort of at the beginning of the Dune storyline. But that's not all it's about. I mean, they're in right after this grand Terminator-style war, so everybody really hates the thinking machines, but they also hate technology, so they're kind of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and we have a real clash of basically the Luddites versus the people who want technology and civilization. So there's some really pithy social issues in there, as well as some great dramatic events of people that don't want anything to do with spaceships and computers and high technology, even if it's going to save lives. And we've got a very fanatical anti-technology leader who is very, very passionate and probably one of the most loathsome characters that we've ever come up with in our careers. And we get worked up writing these things. But Brian and I have done, I think, 13 Dune novels, as well as our own science fiction trilogy called Hellhole. There's 3 books in that one, big, fat space adventures. And we work very well together, and between the two of us, we come up with stories that are way more complicated than we could ever do on our own. And we just keep putting the stories out there, and the fans keep buying them, and we keep thinking up more ideas.
Amazing, awesome, fantastic in a way that to look at something you are in your field, amazing in the different books you've written and the creativity you have. Now, Kevin, coming up with specifically each new book and the storylines and stuff like that, where do you get this creative energy from? Especially all the writing you do. You're the kind of person, where you say, look at how amazing, you sign all these autographs, but pretty much you write all the time, it seems like, Kevin. So how do you your creativity to come up with all this, where do you think it comes from?
Well, I guess other people who hear voices in their heads get locked up in mental hospitals, and I just happen to have voices in my head that are all very creative people, and they tell me interesting stories. So I'm just always, I love reading, I love watching movies and TV. I just love mainlining stories and experiencing them. But I think I love making up my own stuff more and working with my characters, developing the worlds, choreographing the plot lines, and writing everything down so that I can deliver my stories to other people. And that's what I've been doing for a very long time. And I just, I guess my response would be, how do the rest of you stop the ideas from coming? Because it's like drinking from a fire hose inside my imagination. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm certainly not trying to turn it off.
So your day pretty much starts at how many hours a day do you write? How much do you crank out a day? Yeah.
I'm up at like 6:45 in the morning, and I go to bed about midnight or so, and I'm in one way or another working for most of that time. And my wife is also a best-selling author with 30-some books published, and but it's not just sitting at the keyboard editing, or I do most of my writing by dictating with a recorder. I'll go out. We live in, so I'll go out in the mountain trails and dictate stories. But I'm also, like right now, I'm recording an interview with you, and I've got website stuff to do and travel to these conventions where I'm talking on panels or giving keynote speeches or signing autographs. And my wife and I have also formed and expanded a publishing company where we're releasing our 100, I think, this week. We do a lot of our own backlist books, and we've done some classic books. These are print books and ebooks. So we're also busy getting into the whole publishing realm and doing our own thing there. So that takes up a lot of the day. And I'm writing comic scripts for Clockwork Angels, which is a different part of my brain, and proofreading things, researching upcoming projects. What else do I do my whole day? I mean, I don't. it's always something cool that's going on that I can switch gears and do something else that seems really fun and interesting. It's not a drudgery of a job by any means.
No, when you work for yourself, Kevin, when you have the ability to be your own boss and do what you truly love, it doesn't feel like work. And I live that every day in all the different things I do. And not, I put the hours that you put in, Kevin, but in a variety of different ways in my businesses. But I can definitely understand why you do what you do. Now, Kevin, last project I think you're so excited about. Tell us about that one, because you just mentioned these to me off air, because we were definitely just going to talk about Clockwork Angels. Yeah.
I kind of sprang this on you. Well, it leads into what I was just saying about our publishing company, that anybody, even if you're not involved in books and publishing, you must have seen the major sea change that's going on in the publishing world with ebooks and Kindle, Kobos, and Nooks, and iPhones with e-reader apps on them, and the Borders bookstore chain going out of business, and a lot of publishing houses going bankrupt. That it's a huge turmoil in the publishing industry, much the same way there was a turmoil in the music industry a few years ago. I mean, when's the last time you walked into a music land to buy an album? I mean, nobody does that anymore. I don't even know if the stores exist. So publishing and books has really changed, and my wife and I have launched Wordfire Press, which is a lot of our own books and a lot of other books that are by well-known authors. Anyway, one of the interesting strategies that has come up in sort of the United Artists model or a co-op model is writers will put together a bunch of their books, and it's called a book bundle, that a bunch of us, we each chip in a novel, and we just put it up for readers to buy the whole thing to get to name their own price, sort of like Priceline, only without William Shatner. You go up, it's 9 books, and you just say, here's what I think it's worth, and you get all 9 books. I guess the minimum is $3. Well, $3 for 6 books, but you get a bonus if you put more than $10 in or something like that. But we've just got one up right now. It's on storybundle.com, so it's an easy URL to remember. And it's got 9 fantasy novels by truly the rock stars in the fantasy genre. It's not, there's a book by me in there. In fact, Clockwork Angels is up there. That's what I put in, so it ties in with what we were talking. So if you're interested and want to read Clockwork Angels, you can go to storybundle.com. But it's also got an American Gods novella by Neil Gaiman. And if you're a Neil Gaiman fan, then you just went squee, because that's a very exciting thing to add in there. Brandon Sanderson, mega #1 best-selling fantasy writer who finished up the Robert Jordan Wheel of Time series. We've got other things from David Farland, Tracy Hickman, who huge best-selling fantasy author who came up with the Dragonlance books years ago, kind of founded the genre. Christine Catherine Rush, James Artemis Owen, Peter David, just a whole bunch of people that are in this. And I'm very excited because it's all 9 books, and you just go in and pay what you want, and you get all 9 of them. And we get to cross-promote among our fan bases, that maybe you'll come in to read Clockwork Angels from me, and then you'll also read a David Farland book that's in the bundle, and expand your audience that way. We're just really thrilled by the whole concept, and it just got launched yesterday. And in one day, we broke all the records of this company, that there has never been this many downloads in a single day.
Congratulations. That's great.
And it's only up for 3 weeks. That's the thing. Then here you put this bundle together, it goes live for 3 weeks, and then it gets taken down. So if you're interested, just check it out at storybundle.com. And it's a great deal and a lot of great books. And if you know any of the authors in the bundle, you'll get something from them, and then you can expand to read some other great books by other people. So everybody benefits. It's one of those situations where there doesn't seem to be a downside, that the readers benefit, the writers benefit, we all get good exposure for our stuff, and we sleep with smiles on our faces.
Well, Kevin, I tell you, you have so many different projects, and you definitely threw some stuff to me, but I definitely want to have you back on in a month. But I also would like to have, especially when you have time, as we know you're a busy person, appreciate taking the time, but some of your other authors in your publishing company, we'd love to promote their books as well for you. So we definitely will, I'm sure I'll reach out to your agent or publicist to see how we can make things work out, and we'll talk off air, but best of luck. But where can we purchase all the books, all the cool things, where is the best place for us to go, Kevin?
Well, the storybundle.com is the one where you can find all the ones in this fantasy bundle. Wordfirepress.com is where the ones that we publish, including a lot of my backlist, but a bunch of our other authors are there. Or Wordfire, WORDFIRE, wordfire.com has a link to my page, my author page, and some other things. Or just, the usual, at a bookstore near you. Just go to some of those. I have enough books out there, you're likely to find something if you go to a bookstore.
Absolutely. And also, do you have any social media? Do you have Twitter and stuff, Kevin?
Twitter, it's the word the, and then my initials, KJA, so the KJA on Twitter. Facebook, just search for the official Kevin J. Anderson page, and it's a large group. Just go there, and I'll let you in. And I've got a blog. It's my initials, kjablog.com. I could rattle these off forever, and then nobody will remember them anyway. But look around. There's a Wikipedia page. I think there's links to everything that's there. But I just love telling stories, and I tell a lot of different kinds, whether it's humorous, Dan Shamble, zombie PI mysteries, or whether it's big space epics like the Dune, Mentats of Dune for next week. There should be something there that you'll like, so I hope you'll check some of them out.
Well, Kevin, I enjoyed talking to you, and I appreciate you taking all the time, and your life is very interesting. I think a memoir will be the last part of this because of just the interesting things that you do. We're waiting for a
keep track of all that.
Well, Kevin, when you can't crank any more books out, it's time to write the memoir. That'll be a long time from now. I could just tell with you and your wife cranking out so many books. That would be a reality television show, Kevin. That the lives of you two writing all the time. It would be interesting because no one highlights writers like that. So there's an idea, another feather in your cap that possibly for your fans and stuff to see what does Kevin J. Anderson do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I wouldn't get as much writing done with cameras in my face all the time, though. So,
well,
got to do the writing. That's the important part. So, anyway,
that's good. Well,
thanks for talking to me, Neil.
All right, take care, Kevin. I'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
You're listening to Author's Corner, and we'll be back in just a moment.